Okay, picture this. It's 1935, and a young philosopher named Ayer drops an absolute bombshell on the world of ideas. His book, Language, Truth, and Logic, wasn't just another argument. Nope, it was a full-on attempt to dismantle centuries of philosophy, basically calling huge chunks of it, well, meaningless. So, how on earth did he plan to rewrite the rules of the entire game? Let's dive in.
For centuries, metaphysics was, philosophy's grand quest. It was all about trying to understand the deep, hidden nature of reality, a reality that supposedly existed beyond anything we could actually see or touch. And this right here, is exactly what Ayer took aim at. He saw this whole search for a transcendent reality as the root of a massive problem.
And this leads us to Ayer's central, absolutely explosive question. He proposed something truly radical. What if, he said, when philosophers talk about the absolute or the ultimate nature of being, they aren't just making false statements? What if they're not making statements at all? What if it's all just nonsense?
So, what was this big reality problem that Ayer saw everywhere in the philosophy of his time? Well, it all boiled down to one single issue: philosophers making these grand claims that could never ever be tested.
And Ayer had a very specific target in mind: philosophers like F.H. Bradley. Bradley's most famous work was literally called Appearance and Reality. I mean, for Ayer, that title just gave the whole game away. It was a philosophy built entirely on this idea of a reality that goes beyond appearances, a reality we can't observe. And that was precisely the kind of thinking he thought was completely meaningless.
Now, to fight this, Ayer didn't just write a critique. He built a weapon. He created a tool, a test, designed to neatly separate statements that are actually meaningful from what he considered to be just empty philosophical jargon. And this right here is the heart of his entire project, the verifiability criterion of meaning. Now, he was borrowing this idea from a group of thinkers known as the Vienna Circle, and the core idea was to bring scientific rigor into philosophy. Think of it like a bouncer at a club for facts. For a statement to even get in the door and be considered a factual claim, there has to be some kind of observation you could make, at least in principle, to check if it's true or false. If you can't, it doesn't get past the velvet rope. So how does this nonsense detector actually work? It's a surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful little test. Let's try it. Step 1, make a statement. Say, there are mountains on the far side of the moon. Now step 2, ask the question. Even back in 1935, when no one could check, you still knew in principle what observation would prove it, right? You could imagine going there and looking. So it passes the test. It's factually meaningful. But now take a statement like, the absolute is eternal. What could you possibly see or measure to verify that? According to Ayer, absolutely nothing. It failed the test. It's not a fact. It's just an expression of something else.
So, with metaphysics, theology, and huge swaths of traditional philosophy now tossed in the meaningless pile, you have to wonder, what's left for a philosopher to even do? Well, Ayer proposed a brand new and, frankly, a much more modest job description.
He basically argued that philosophy needed to get out of the speculation business. No more building these grand, all-encompassing systems about the nature of reality. That job was done. Instead, philosophy's one and only purpose should be critical analysis, the careful, logical analysis of the language we use to talk about the world. This creates a whole new division of labor, you see. Philosophers don't discover new facts about the world, that's what scientists do. The philosopher's job is to analyze the sentences that scientists and the rest of us use. Their work isn't factual, it's linguistic. It's all about clarifying definitions and figuring out their logical consequences. To really see how this new philosophy works, let's take a look at a classic example from Bertrand Russell, which Ayer loved to use. Take this sentence like here. It seems pretty simple, right? But for a philosopher like Ayer, the real job is to break it down into its core verifiable parts.
So, a philosophical analysis shows that this one sentence is actually a bundle of two separate claims. First, that one and only one person wrote the novel Waverley, and second, that this person was Scottish. Now, can these individual claims be verified? You bet. A literary historian can go check the records. And at that point, the philosopher's job is done. They've clarified the language and handed the factual investigation over to the experts.
All right, now we get to what is easily the most shocking and controversial part of Ayer's whole theory. What happens when you point his nonsense detector at ethics and morality? For a lot of people, this is where his ideas packed the biggest punch.
Let's take a statement that pretty much everyone would agree with. It feels deeply, profoundly true. But we have to ask the hard question.
Does it pass Ayer's verifiability test? Is there any observation we could make that would scientifically prove the wrongness of torture? According to Ayer, the answer is a hard no. You can observe the act of torture, sure. You can observe people's horrified reactions to it, but you can never ever observe the property of wrongness itself. It's not a thing out there in the world. Therefore, he has to conclude that torture is wrong isn't a factual statement like the sky is blue. It's what he calls an emotive utterance. It's basically the logical equivalent of just shouting, "Boo, torture."
This shocking conclusion actually has a name: emotivism. It's the theory that when we make ethical statements, we're not actually stating facts about the world. We're really just expressing our own feelings and, trying to get others to feel the same way. We're not arguing about what's true or false, we're just emoting.
So this begs a pretty big question, right? If Ayer's logical takedown was so complete, why are we still talking about metaphysics today? Why didn't it just pack up and disappear? Well, as it turns out, philosophy fought back.
There were two main lines of attack. First, critics pointed out a huge, fatal flaw in Ayer's own weapon. The verifiability principle itself cannot be empirically verified. By its own rules, the statement, "only verifiable statements are meaningful," is, well, meaningless. It's a philosophical claim, not a scientific one. Ouch. Second, and maybe more importantly, other philosophers just refused to play by Ayer's rules. They started to reimagine what metaphysics was even for. They argued it wasn't about some hidden reality, but more like creating conceptual maps to help us chart our understanding of the world, or building big picture systems that grow out of what science tells us. In short, they completely redefined the game.
And that leaves us right here, with the powerful, lingering question at the heart of Ayer's entire legacy. His radical project forces us to ask, what is the real value of ideas that lie beyond the reach of scientific proof? Are our ethics, our ideas of beauty, and our deepest philosophical questions just expressions of feeling? Or do they point to truths that science simply isn't equipped to measure? That's a question every single one of us has to answer for ourselves.